Triple Feature.
.blogspot.com.
Thank you for listening to the official YouTube page of Midnight Triple Feature. Please, while you listen, head over to midnighttriplefeature.blogspot.com. You can check out past shows, reviews, or link up to social media where we can keep in touch. Thank you for listening.
Hey, this is Adam here, and I'm going to record a little bonus review today for you. While we're still on our sort of summer hiatus, I figured why not throw up an extra review, something that I recently checked out. A little indie movie called Scumbag Hustler. Scumbag Hustler is the newest film from director Sean Weathers, who is a guy I wasn't familiar with prior to watching the movie. And I, checked out his IMDb profile and then went to the website of the production company and can see that he's actually been working for quite a long time. He had one title that I had heard of called Hookers in Revolt, but have not seen it. And other than that, the titles were all new to me. But from what I can see, he primarily directs low-budget indie exploitation type films. Like he directed a film called They All Must Die. I think that's the right title, which is basically I spit on your grave in the city. So I don't know, sounds interesting, but like I said, I haven't seen it. He did another movie called House of the Damned, which sounds more like a straight horror film, and obviously a movie with a title like Hookers in Revolt kind of screams modern exploitation. But as for this movie, the story revolves around a character named Soloman Crowe, who is played by Sean Weathers, and he spends his days trying to hustle people he meets on the street out of their cash so that he can get his next fix, his next drug fix. So this movie really lives or dies on whether or not you're going to go along with the character of Soloman and the way he's portrayed by Weathers. Now, personally, I found it incredibly entertaining and amusing. I think he plays the role, he plays it to comedic effect. So he plays it half of it sort of straight. So when he's doing the hustle and he's trying to get the people out of their cash, he's very convincing, and you could see why someone would probably give him their money. But whenever he's sort of not having to put on that persona, he plays almost like an over-the-top crackhead. He's like all twitchy and his eyes get real big. And for whatever reason, I don't know if it's just me, but this performance, I just got a kick out of it and actually found myself laughing a lot. I mean, I guess it's sort of typical of what you would expect from a performance of someone who's, tweaking out on drugs or always looking for a fix, but worked pretty well for me. Now, the movie is shot, it's guerrilla style, which, if you don't know what guerrilla filmmaking is, it's basically you go out and shoot without actually securing permits or permission of the people who own the properties. So, for example, there's several scenes where they're shooting in very well-known establishments like McDonald's or Target or a Starbucks. And I guess, the whole idea behind guerrilla filmmaking is you make your own production value because you don't have a lot of money, so you have to take what you can get. So there's a scene where he's on the sidewalk and he's hustling this girl out of her money, and there's a police car on the side of the road with its lights on. I'm going to assume that was just taking advantage of a situation that existed, and they work the scene around the situation they're given, which I actually really like. I'm a big fan of 70s style exploitation films, and particularly exploitation films set in New York City. So the guerrilla style in modern New York City works really well and feels like a proper throwback to what we would have gotten in the 70s, which is sort of what this movie is emulating. I mean, it feels modern, but the looks, the locations, it has a really nice exploitation feel, which is reminiscent for me of some of the movies that I really enjoy. Now, there are a few other sort of main characters in the movie. So the movie plays out, it's almost like a series of vignettes where Soloman is just approaching new people on the street to get their money. But he happens to move in with his brother, who's a minister, and his wife. And there's a whole side plot where Soloman has this ongoing hustle on his sister-in-law, where he's convincing her that he's undercover for the DEA or something, but he keeps changing his story because obviously he's lying, and he's trying to keep this charade up over a period of time. And, you know, he's probably used to just having to hustle somebody for a couple of minutes and run away as fast as he can and never see them again. The whole minister storyline, I think it works. He probably definitely needs it to be there, because otherwise it would just feel like a lot of random scenes strung together. And this gives it at least some sort of overarching story where you can base the end of your film around. And the performances from the minister and the wife are good. I like the minister better because he's playing it typical, I guess you could say. He's basically takes religion very seriously to the point where he will only have sex with his wife if she wants to procreate, which she doesn't want to. So she walks around basically in next to nothing, and he constantly just shuns her and won't sleep with her and whatever. And the way that he delivers his lines, it's very straight. It's not over the top, but it just works. Now, regarding some of the hustles that he does, I just want to talk about some of these because, you know, you could watch this movie and easily feel like, oh, well, there's no way that anybody would ever buy this, you know. But there's a couple things he does in here that I know happen. Now, one is he does the lottery ticket scam where he walks up to somebody on the street and says, you know, I have this lottery ticket, but I can't cash it because the person in the store doesn't like me or whatever. So if you go in and cash it, I'll give you, you know, half of the winnings. But since I'm sending you in there in good faith, can you give me like $20, you know, just so that I know you're going to come back? And of course, he gives him $20 and he runs away. But I know I've heard of this scam like happening at gas stations and whatnot. And another one that I actually resonated kind of well with me was there's this scene where he walks up to this woman and her daughter on the street, and he hands her a DVD, like a children's DVD. He claims he's the director of this movie. It's called like Ants in the Pants or something. And he's like, oh, here, you know, you want this DVD? I directed it, blah, blah, blah. And of course, their first reaction is, yeah, I'll take, you know, why wouldn't I take a free DVD? And he proceeds to sign it and tell them that since he signed it, now they have to pay for it. So he tries to swindle her out of $20 and he ends up getting 10. The reason that this resonates with me a little bit is I was in New York City, and I was walking down, me and my wife were walking down a sidewalk, and some guy walked up to us with tickets. And he had like a whole bunch of tickets, and he handed us the tickets, and he's like, oh, here's 2 tickets to this comedy show at such and such club tonight. We're like, oh, all right, thanks. You know, like, with no intention of going, of course, but we figure, well, we'll just take them and go, it doesn't matter. And as we proceed to walk away, he stops us and says, oh, no, well, wait, those tickets are, you know, $50, so you got to owe me $25 a ticket. To which our response was, no, thank you, gave the tickets back and walked away. But it's not that hard to believe that people may fall for some of these things, and it's kind of humorous to see it because, again, the way Weathers plays a performance, you can see him really selling it. The only other aspect of the movie I really want to touch on is there's 2 cuts of the film. So there's a softcore cut and a clean cut. I actually watched both. I watched the movie twice. And the softcore cut, I mean, it all depends on your sort of preference or sensibilities. Softcore stuff, porn, doesn't bother me. So if I were to watch one, I would just watch that one. Obviously, that's the full-length feature. That's what he shot, so I feel like that's the one that you should probably watch. But if you really don't like softcore pornography, or, you know, you could watch this without it and the movie still makes perfect sense. But yeah, overall, I give a pretty solid recommendation to it. It's incredibly low budget, but I don't see that really throwing viewers off that much, because it's not like a low budget horror film where you're going to have the effects that are going to throw it off. The primary focus of the film is on Soloman, and I think that Weathers does a really good job playing the character, so the acting doesn't throw you off. And there's enough humor in here, and the pacing is well enough, and it's only, I mean, the clean version's only just over an hour, so it's not, it doesn't really have time to ever drag, and he doesn't pad it out with unnecessary stuff. So once again, check it out. I think it's coming out sometime in the fall, maybe November, but I'm not sure. You can head over to their website at Full Circle Filmworks. It's probably fullcirclefilmworks.com. But if not, just Google Full Circle Filmworks. You can find their other films there. My interest is definitely peaked now in his other stuff, and I'm going to seek it out and hopefully see if that stuff is as good or as entertaining as Scumbag Hustler.
And as always, you can find us on the web at midnighttripleFeature.blogspot.com, on Twitter at MTFeature, and on Facebook. And on Facebook. And on Facebook.